Hey friends, Erich Andreas, YourGuitarSage here. Welcome. It's December the 3rd. Today I'm going to be answering your questions in real time. This is the guitar show. We don't have a guest today. We've had our heads down, and we have been working on all sorts of amazing things that are going to be happening here in 2020. So, although we'd like to have a guest on the show, we've just literally been focused on creating content, great content for you, and also planning for the new year and all the amazing things that are coming. It's going to be bonkers. So welcome. We're going to have a blast here today. And what I was just doing just now was basically riffing over one chord. You guys might have seen recently here that a video went up with Robbie Calvo and myself, and we were talking about vamping over one chord. A vamp is one chord instead of a chord progression, right, where the chords progress. We're talking about one chord that plays over and over and over again. Now, although that can be repetitive, of course it can, because you're just hearing the same chord over and over again, but what it does is it allows you the opportunity to frame the chord up and to create licks around that specific chord, which then makes for all your soloing and everything else much more melodic because you know what's going on. But when you're changing chords, like in a chord progression, you don't really get the opportunity to do that, especially as a newer player who's wanting to get your riffs going, right? So, without getting too detailed about it here, that's it in a nutshell. You're playing one chord and then you're shaping up those chords. And in this case here, I was using the cage system. Whatever system you want to use for understanding where the chords are at, that's your way of doing that, and that's great. But basically every lick that I played there was centered around, and I was thinking of what is the chord that I'm playing. And even though I was playing the old Hendrix chord there, which you also heard in the track earlier during the countdown. Even though that's what I was playing, I was thinking more of a minor shape, a E minor shape. Okay, and that's why it works really well. Now, we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to show you some other examples. Okay. In the meantime, though, let's get to some questions. So normally when we have the guests here, right, we have the segments and we have everything else. Well, guess what? Today we don't have that. So literally, I'm yours for an hour and a half. Pretty cool, right? So we're going to get to all of your questions. Let me know what it is that you're struggling with, all that good stuff. And then should there be a lull in our conversation, I'll get back to doing this and showing you guys what to do there, okay? So Jonathan Blackwell is saying, when playing fingered bass, what drills can help build speed and keep in time? Picking is easier since it carries over from the guitar, Jonathan's saying. Jonathan, I think it's best to practice songs because practicing drills can be a little bit boring. If you want some drills, I got a million of them, and you can do the old, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But of course, you would just do that with your fingers. Right? So any manner of moving your fingers is going to be helpful. But listen to this. Anybody who can hear my voice right now, listen to this, because this is what we're really after when we're practicing. We're not just looking for our fingers to be expanding in regards to their capabilities. How cool would it be if not only while your fingers were getting acclimated to the fretboard and the strings, right, if you're playing fingered bass as opposed to picking, how cool would it be if you were also learning licks, if you were also developing songs, if you were also accessing the theory part of your brain, right? The analytical part of your brain, where you can start using that information and become a better musician. See, if you're just playing exercise 1, dexterity exercise 1, which is in my beginner course, which anybody watching here who hasn't gone through that today, please go get it right now because it's free. It's like the first 30 lessons that I teach all my students. It's the top 30 lessons, and it absolutely will change the way that you think. There's the link right there. It will absolutely change the way you think about the guitar, and it will absolutely build a massive foundation for you. I promise you. If you've got nothing to lose, it's free. We've had like 500,000 people go through it already, and the proof's in the pudding. It's amazing. But one of those exercises in there is dexterity exercise number 1. Now, the reason I put that in there, and I'm telling you otherwise, what to play otherwise, is that is great for a beginner, because a beginner, when they're a baby beginner, when they're just starting off, they can't be bothered with music theory and playing songs and everything else. They're just trying to get acclimated. Think about this for a moment. Think about a child who doesn't know how to walk yet, and they're trying to walk. They're getting up and they're doing things. They're standing up, they're bouncing, they're falling. Maybe they walk a step or two and then they fall, right? You want to think about yourself, if you're a beginner, you want to think about yourself as that, but you're going for this goal of walking. You're not jumping hurdles yet. You're not walking on a high wire. You're not doing the what's that? The pole jump where they jump over the thing, right? You're not doing any of that. You're just trying to stand up. So if someone said, yeah, that's fine, but look, man, humans can do all this stuff. They can run, they can jump over stuff. So baby, do that right now. Do that, little baby. No, that's ridiculous. They've got to learn how to crawl and walk, what have you, first. So what I like to do with my baby beginners, because we all start there. Everybody from Hendrix to Eddie Van Halen started there. It's a great place to start, is that you start off with that exercise because it shows you specifically what you need to do to fret the guitar. There's too many things going on if you're trying to learn theory and everything else. But once you get the basic idea, right, then I'd say don't look for an exercise or a drill. I would say practice songs, practice songs, practice songs, practice songs. No one goes to a concert to watch some person play drills. They go to hear songs. And by learning songs, you're going to be learning the music theory. You're going to be musical. When people are listening to you, you're not going to drive them batty because you'll be playing a song and it's going to sound good, as opposed to you just drilling something over and over again. Okay? Good. Great question, Jonathan. Can you expound on what a bridge is in a song? Why it is there, and how do I recognize one? Michael. So usually the bridge is the C section of a song. A basic song has a verse and a chorus. Some songs just have a verse. So I've heard some songs that just have a chorus. But most pop songs, when I mean pop, I don't mean Katy Perry pop. I mean pop, like the music that you listen to, unless you're listening to some, atonal music or something like that. They always have structures, and they typically have a bridge and a chorus. The chorus is usually that part of the song that the title's in, and it's the part that you're like, oh, I love this song. And it's the chorus part that you're talking about usually. The verses are usually down and tell the story, and the choruses are usually repetitive and happen 3-4 times, usually double in the end. A bridge is a section of the song that's typically, more often than not, Michael, you're going to find the bridge about 2.5 minutes into the song, somewhere around there. From your basic pop song. It usually goes verse, chorus, bridge, or some variation thereof. You usually don't have the bridge near the beginning part of the song. If so, that's usually considered now a pre-chorus or a chorus or something like that. So you won't find the bridge usually. But the bridge is almost always the C section of the song. So you have A, B, and C. So A is usually, can be either. It can be the chorus or the verse, whatever they start off with, usually the verse. B would be the chorus, and C would be the bridge. Now, you said, why is it there, and how do I recognize one? So you typically recognize one because it sounds different. It sounds different than what you've heard so far. That's kind of the point of it. The point of it is to keep you interested, because if you just play the verse and chorus for 3.5 minutes, you start getting a little bit bored. You're like, I got it. I'm going to change the radio. So you don't want people to do that, right? You want them to listen to your song and what it is that you're saying. So a bridge is a nice way to, number one, if you haven't said what you wanted to say lyrically, you can always put a bridge in there and finish it up. And a lot of times that will happen when there's a twist to the story. So in country music, a lot of times it'll be like, you know, whatever, some song about, I don't know what it would be about, but nonetheless, it would be the turnaround, or not the turnaround, but the thing that changes the story to where you're like, oh, there it is, you know, that sort of thing. That's what the bridge is for. You don't have to have a bridge in a song, a short song, a ditty, you know, a short song that doesn't have to do that, won't have that. But it's purely subjective, and it's purely a matter of choice. What is it that you want? You know, what do you want to put in there? So, hello, sir. This is Fahad from Dubai. I really got a problem in strumming. Can you explain why I have a problem? I can tell you exactly why you have a problem. Just like everybody who has a problem with strumming or guitar is because you haven't done it before. I say it, I've said it a million times, I suck at Mandarin. Terrible at it. If a group of Chinese people came in here right now, as much as I would want to talk to them, I wouldn't be able to because I suck at it. Why? Because I'm not Chinese. No, not because I'm not Chinese, because I haven't practiced it. There's plenty of Americans that know Chinese, or Mandarin, but because I don't practice it, I'm not good at it. Fahad, because you haven't practiced it enough, you're not good at it. So I say that may seem logical to some people, but it's obviously not, because I get this question all the time, and I get it. It's frustrating. But here's a thing to recognize too, is that within your own head, you feel like you've done enough already and that you should get it already. It doesn't matter what you think, and no disrespect to you, but it doesn't matter what you think. Just like if you think that the world should be a certain way and it's not, what you think doesn't matter. It's what you do is what matters. What you do is what's going to change the world, not what you think. You can think all day long. It's not going to go anywhere. You got to do, right? Take what you think and do. So same thing with strumming. It's like when you are learning how to strum, you have to be very focused in it. You have to do the bits and pieces. Fahad, my guess would be also you haven't gone through the strumming lesson that I give in the free course. So find that link in the description of the video, or we'll post a link for it here. But it's YourGuitarSage.com/30. It's literally free. Not because it's not worth anything, because normally that course right there, if you were to do one-on-one lessons with me, would cost easily over $1,000, easily. Okay, I have students that I taught that never learned all that stuff just because they weren't moving forward, because they weren't practicing. It's all about practice, and you don't even need this, but it will help a lot, right? Just like you don't need to shower, you don't need to eat. But it's really helpful if you want to keep living and stuff, you know? So, so just understand that it's just a matter of practice, but you want to make sure you're practicing the right stuff and practicing the right way, Fahad, and there is a trick to it. So all of your down strums should be when your foot hits the ground, a down beat. So if you're counting like this, 2, 3, 4, I should be going down, 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 down. When my foot comes up and I want it to strum up, I would just bring my hand up, just like my foot. And whatever the strumming rhythm is, if it's 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and even though I'm skipping some of those notes called grace notes or ghost notes, I'm still keeping my leg and my hand in tandem. They should be, because those are down beats and up beats, down strums, up strums. Watch that video, Fahad, because it will absolutely change the way you understand strumming. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, if you can shout amen or let Fahad know exactly what I'm talking about, then yeah, that'll let him know, okay? Also, friends, let me direct you to the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Hopefully it's there. It's not showing on my computer, but it should be there. But there is the Super Chat feature, and if you want to donate to the cause today, you can do that. And also, we have a new little surprise when you do donate. So whoever will be the first one to donate, you're going to see that, right? All right. So here we go. We got Trinidad and Tobago here. Oh my gosh, he's in the Caribbean islands. I'm jealous. Jamil. Anyone here build or modify their guitars? Oh, also friends, if you would, when you're leaving a question for me, put a question mark and do all caps. That'll let me see it very quickly, okay? All right. What are some good, so I almost missed this one, there's no question mark. What are some good tips for new players to get your fingers to change chords quickly and smooth? So here's the trick. Most often in guitar and anything at all in life, it comes down to facing whatever it is that you need to do head on. If it's to the side or it's over here, you're going to have a weak result. It's like punching or fighting or something. It's like, look at there, we got someone went, oh, woo, confetti all over me there. Toad Lick, super chat volume is too loud. Slide her down a tad. Super chat, how would you know? How did you know? They would have to have gone back in time a few seconds. Because we have not, you just did the super chat. Slide her down a tad, laugh out, but okay. Thank you so much, Toad Lick. I gotta know how you got that name, Toad Lick. Interesting. Okay, so what we were talking about. So basically, when it comes to what we're talking about here, it literally is focusing on the very specific area that you're having an issue with. Now, most people would go, well, you know, Simcha is telling you it's how to change chords quickly and smooth. What are some tips, right? Well, here's the deal. What is the part of changing chords that's difficult? It's the setting up of the new chord, isn't it? That's really important to know, because that means the quickest way that we can remedy this is by doing specifically that. So if you want to get good at push-ups, doing 10,000 pull-ups is not going to help you as much as doing a few hundred push-ups, okay? So understand that that's a muscle group. And the same thing here when we're talking about changing chords, you're practicing drills and scales and everything else. It's helpful for overall for the guitar, for dexterity and scales and what have you. But ultimately, if we want to change chords, there's a whole mechanism that goes on when we're changing chords. So for instance, if we're going from a G to a C, what you want to do is you want to play your chord. And then you want to think about the next chord in your mind's eye, like you do every day. If you're saying, I'm going to go to the market, you have the market in mind, what it looks like and everything, and you get on the road and you end up there in your car magically, because all this is happening kind of in the background of your mind, but you're doing it in your mind's eye, right? There's nothing that's ever been created without seeing it in our mind first. So here you are, you're playing a G, you're playing a C. Now, what I like to compare this to is if you're jumping across a river and you've got stones that you're jumping from one stone to the other. If you're jumping off of one stone to another stone, you don't jump in the air first and then start looking for a stone. That's very dangerous, because you're probably not going to find a stone because your trajectory is going in some random direction that you have just randomly chosen, and you've got that, I got to do this. That's what people do with guitar all the time. Instead of thinking for a second, slowing down and going, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? They just jump, and then they wonder why they're sucking. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm holding this chord, and I'm saying, like, the next stone that I'm jumping to, yay! Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much, Dave Hetherington. What exercise to use to stretch out the little finger? Dave, I'll talk about that in 1 second. Woo! All right. Thanks, friends. That's awesome. Christy Stock. I didn't get the confetti, but thank you, Christy. So sweet. Okay, and no question from Christy. There it is. All right, I'm going to do that a few times and then I'll stop. Maybe a few times in every show. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So similarly, Dave, your question is going to be similar. Let's just jump to Dave right away, because I like to jump to those folks that are donating, because that's really kind. I really appreciate that. We all appreciate that. So let's talk about Dave, and then we're going to jump back to that chord bit in just a second. So here we go. So an exercise. So you could do exercise number 1, dexterity exercise number 1, which is in the free course. YourGuitarSage.com/30. The link for that's in the description of this video. But here's the deal, Dave. I have another exercise called Dexterity Exercise number 2, which is basically where you just do 2 fingers at a time. And if you're doing fingers 3 and 4, that will get it very dexterous, okay? So we use the word stretch. We're not really stretching anything. What we're doing is we're getting used to that finger being used. Taking your thumb and dropping it behind the back of the neck and getting used to that. At first it's not very comfortable because you're just not used to doing it. We're used to grappling things because we were cavemen and we grabbed, you know, shovels and shovels? No, we grabbed clubs, right? We grabbed clubs and then later on we grabbed shovels and stuff. So we're used to doing things like this. We palm things, right? So the guitar is very strange in that way, in that you want to drop your thumb back here and not really palm the guitar so much, and that'll get your hand out front. Then you can use that pinky. Practice dexterity exercise number 1 in the free course, and especially focus on the pinky and the 3rd finger. Thanks so much for the donation, Dave. So going back to what I was talking about, jumping from stone to stone, you're going to size up the stone. You're going to make sure you can reach it, make sure there's no algae on it, and then you're going to heave yourself over to jump on that stone. That's what you want to do when you're thinking about these chords. If you're going from a G chord to a C chord, what you want to do is you want to think in your mind's eye, what does that C chord look like before you get to it? So I'll do it what it might look like for a beginner. So you go, okay, so here's a G chord. And the C chord, I know my 3rd finger goes here, my 2nd finger goes right here, my 1st finger goes here. Then I'm going to form that chord. A lot of people think that you have to put all your fingers on at the same time. No, you don't have to. We do everything in steps. No matter how fast we do it, we do everything in steps. So you can say, I scaled a mountain, but you scaled that mountain 1 step at a time. So when we grab a chord, I can go boom. Oh, well, Eric just put all his fingers on there just at once. He lied to me because he just said we do it in steps. But alas, what happens is if you learn how to do 1 finger, 1 finger, and 1 finger, then eventually it becomes so fast that it might as well just be 1 movement. But we learned it by doing 1, 2, 3, okay? Or not fingers 1, 2, 3, but start from the lowest note to the highest note because you're strumming from the lowest note to the highest note. So that'll give you a split second to get that finger there quicker. And then what I want you to do is this. So you're holding your C chord, and then whatever 2 chords you're having issues with, just focus on 2 chords now. Don't focus on a bunch of chords. It's not going to help you. The issue is focus. People have problems focusing. That's why they're not good on the guitar, because they're not focusing. There's so many things to learn, but if you focus on one thing, get good at it, and then move on to the next thing, you're going to be in good shape. So here's our C. And then I'm going to think about the G chord. I know this 2nd finger is going to come up here, the 1st finger is going to be here, pinky's going to be down here. So then I go boom, boom. And then I think about the C chord and I do that. And what that does is that builds neural paths in your brain to connect the C and the G chord. Then when you're done with that, try another chord and another chord and another chord. That's how to get those chords quick and smooth, my friend. Hey, beautiful. Thank you so much. James is saying he has trouble with speed and cleaning up my bends. Is there any technique to help with that, or practice makes perfect? The answer 100% is always practice makes perfect. The truth is, no one needs a guitar teacher. No one needs a guitar course. You can literally do it all by yourself, but it will most likely take longer. You'll probably learn some things differently too because you're doing it kind of just by ear or whatever. But why I can pay the bills by teaching guitar and writing books and creating courses is because I help people get there a lot quicker. So the answer is always practice. So for anybody who has a question out there, the answer is practice. Good night. No, it is always practice, but there are specific ways to practice to get you there quicker, right? So James, I feel like my job is always to focus people on specific things. So speed and cleaning up my bends are 2 very different things. Speed only comes through accuracy. And if you think about this, do away with the notion of speed. Speed is a byproduct of accuracy. Always has been, always will be. No one ever gets quick at something if they're doing it accurately. They never get to it before they get to the accuracy part. You got to be accurate at something, and the more accurate you are at it, then the faster you'll be at it because you have it down. It's like, it's easy, right? When you were 3, 2, 1, whatever it was that you learned to walk, we all were terrible at it, just like we all are terrible at guitar when we start. And miraculously, the more we practice, the more talented we become. It's just very simple math. But somehow people don't get that. So just understand that same idea there. As far as walking, you want to do the same thing when you're playing guitar. They're different things. So when you're walking, you're probably not talking, and you're probably not doing some other rudimentary 2, 3-year-old thing. You're just walking, you're focused on it. So James, what I want you to do is I want you to practice your bends as I teach it in the course, if you're in the course already. If you're not, on YouTube, search YourGuitarSage bends, and I'll show you about that. But typically what I do is this, James. If you're talking about bends, if you want to play them accurately pitch-wise, you can pick either a whole step up or half step up, whatever you prefer. Do both. At some point, pick a note, bend up to it. Or you can do the old or to where they're the same note, right? But otherwise you can just one note, get that note in your head, in your ears, and then bend up to it. That's a great way to do it. And practice nice and slow, James. Same thing with whatever it is of your speed. Here's another thing that I don't even think I've ever said, but it's very important to say. In regards to speed, there is not just a general speed that someone is, oh, he or she is this fast at playing guitar. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have one guitarist that can play certain licks faster than another guitar player can play other licks. Make sense? Stevie Ray Vaughan was a really fast player, so was Yngwie Malmsteen. But if I put a classical guitar in his hand and I said, no, you don't get to use the pick, you need to play classical style, because he always uses a pick. He's not going to be fast. He's not going to be the Yngwie Malmsteen that you know and love. He may be able to move these fingers quickly, but how's that going to matter if this is not in sync? It's going to not be very accurate. He's going to have to slow way down. So, truth be told, we get good or get fast at licks, at specific licks. And the way to do that is to practice it over and over and over and over and over again. Now, practicing one specific lick or one specific scale will help you across all the other licks and across all the other scales, but not to the same degree. So if you're practicing a lick to where you can play it at a certain speed and you get it 100% of the time, every single time you get it at that speed because you've worked up to it, that doesn't mean that all the other licks that you're trying to attempt at the same tempo are going to be there. It just doesn't work that way because you've practiced that specific thing because you focused, like we talked about. That's why I say when you're transitioning from a G to a C, it's not like that means that all the other chords are just going to fall into place. It'll help them for sure, but you still have to practice those as well. So as far as speed, James, I would say focus on something that you want to get fast at. If it's arpeggios, focus on arpeggios, or a specific riff in a song. Just wear it out until you get it. And then magically, all your other stuff will rise too, but not to the same level as those licks that you practiced. Okay? All right. Great questions. Hello, Jacksonville. Hello, Boston, Seattle, Orlando, NYC, Colorado. Somebody purchased Pro Tools and Complete 11 Plus software. What would be the best computer to run them on? My laptop can't seem to run right. Rollin, there are lots of blogs regarding this, but if you look in Pro Tools, because, and Complete is actually pretty intensive as well on your machine. Look to see what their minimal use, what is it called? System requirements, thank you, Chris. What your system requirements are for using those, and that's a good place to start. And if you can get more than that, then get that. But lots of RAM, fast processors, what have you. Also, understanding how to use those software tools to where you're not taxing the system. A lot of times people will have all of these virtual instruments playing, and it bogs the system down massively. So like some tricks that you can do is create that virtual instrument and then record an audio track of it. You can always keep the data there, but turn it off so it's not bogging down your system. Create an audio track, because your computer can handle audio tracks all day long, but those virtual instruments are very CPU intensive. Kevin King, hey neighbor, Tallahassee, okay, Nigeria, wow, pretty cool. Miami, Dubai, Oklahoma. Brian from the Sunshine State, that's my state, thank you. Detroit Rock City, beautiful. Boynton Beach, I feel like I've been to Boynton Beach. Where is that? Oh, I know where that's at. That's central, it's like South Florida, isn't it? Boynton Beach, Max. Conroe, Texas, Oklahoma. My question, wish is Western swing. Herb Hoover is saying. So a couple things you could do for that, Herb, is you could practice alternate bass lines. So for instance, this is just at the cornerstone of Western swing, is this kind of, let's get a little quieter here. So you've heard songs like Folsom Prison Blues, right? That's one chord, and what I'm doing is I'm strumming the low E note, I'm picking it, and then I strum the chord. And then the fifth string, so the sixth and fifth string, I'm alternating back and forth just for the bass note. So. That's Western swing is really related to that. That's going on all the time. I have a lesson for that here on YouTube. Just search YourGuitarSage Folsom Prison. But I also teach swing guitar inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System. It's different than Western swing, but a lot of the same chords and some of the feel. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kevin. I know I never wear this sweater, but I'm today. Groveland, Florida, Northeast PA. Coolio, Greece. That's cool. Czech Republic, that's so cool. What are the good and bad effects of using tab? There's no bad effects of using tab. None whatsoever. It's a great way to read music. It's a fantastic way. I can hear someone out there with an ego for music are saying, yeah, but you should really learn how to read music. Hey, I read music, that's great. I'm not very good at it, and I wonder how good you are at it. Probably not very good unless you're like in an orchestra pit or something. So let's not get judgy and let's not get egotistical about music, because music, that's the killer of music. It's the killer of art and the killer of a lot of things. So what you want to do is, if you want to learn how to read music, then do that. Everybody sucks at reading music at first because it's a new thing, it's a new language. And if you do it a long time and then you stop, you lose your skills. Not all of them, but it's just like, it's not like riding a bike. It's more like reading music, to where you're like, now what was that again? Because I used to be fairly decent at reading music. I can still do it, but it takes me longer. If you want to be really fast, like reading a book, then you need to be doing it all the time. I tell this story all the time. I had a girlfriend who still is in the Nashville Symphony, and she's an amazing violinist. And I remember I was practicing Bark at the Moon solo the first time I learned it, and I was learning by tab, but there was the music up top, and I knew she read music really well, and she was in the other room practicing. And I said, Allie, come over here. Look at this. Tell me, can you play this phrase? And what was taking me hours to do, she just looked at it and she's like, you know, she had to think about it a little bit, but I mean, it was so impressive that she could read that so well. Well, that's her job. That's what she does for 40 hours a week, is reads music. So yeah, she should be good at it, right? So reading music is great. It's very helpful, but if you don't do it all the time, it's not like you just learn it like you would a scale and you don't forget it. You have to practice it all the time. The cool thing about tab is you don't really have to practice it all the time, because it's very, very, very logical, but it's slower than reading music. Typically. I've never seen anybody sit down to tab and just play a song, because it doesn't represent the time and a bunch of other things that reading, music's notation does, musical notation does. Fahad, I wish I could move my hand like the way you're moving it. You can, but man, I feel like I just piss people off when I say this, but I'm sorry. I'm going to say it because it's the truth. Fahad, you can do it. You can be a way better player than me, 100%, but you're going to have to practice more than me or practice more efficiently than me. You don't even have to practice more than me. You could practice just more efficiently than me. And in a short period of time, you could be better than me. It wouldn't be that hard. But this is the part that pisses people off. But you got to practice like you want it. And most people don't want to do that, right? They don't want to take the time to do that. But it literally, the world's your oyster. You can be amazing at the guitar if you want to be. But you got to want it enough, you know? Okay. Ashland, Oregon. What up, Roy? Literally just started snowing. Whoa. Okay, now I gotta go back here. Oh man, so many questions. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going slow here. Okay, I have a Line 6 amp with a built-in looper. I'm sorry if I missed your question, but the chat just moves on me sometimes. It's real annoying. I have a Line 6 amp with a built-in looper. It's hard to try and use it since it's the button in front of the amp. Would you suggest a foot switch or perhaps a separate looper pedal? Yes, Terry, I would. If you're having issues with it, or you're going to have to just get used to it, you know? How do I play in E flat using a capo and I'm familiar with first position chord shapes? Okay, good. Great question, Howard. So if you were playing in E, that'd be really easy, right? Because you would just play an E and you'd have an E, an A, a E, an A, a B, right? So, but even that is not the best in the world because there's lots of bar chords there even still. So this is the way you want to think about this. And everybody listen up because this is super, 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 super valuable information. You might be able to get it from the little bit that I'm going to say here. Otherwise, watch my video that I put up recently called Why Are You Making the Guitar So Hard? You find where E flat is at either on the 6th or 5th strings. If you go on the 6th string, we're going to go I'm going to skip. You should know this because you've taken the free course from me and you know the notes on the fretboard. It's super easy if you follow that video. But if I go all the way up, I'm going to know that this is an E flat. It's the 11th fret of the E string. So now, what chord starts on the 6th string? That's an open chord, a G, right? The E as well, but we're looking for something that we could capo. So usually you're looking to find something in the key of G or E, or the feel of G and E, G and C. I'm going to take this G chord, I'm going to slide it up to that E flat. So now, woo, Lord Excess, thank you, my friend. Thank you for all you do, Eric. Any tips on recording at home? Any software you would recommend for someone who is brand new with all of this recording software? Yeah, let me get straight to Lord Excess here, and we'll come back to this question here. Lord Excess, thank you so much for the donation. So kind of you, my friend. So, any tips for recording at home? Yes, get GarageBand. If you have a Mac, get GarageBand. It's free. Chris, does Logic, can you do that for PC? No. Okay. So if you have a Mac, get GarageBand. Start there. Don't pay for anything at first. Make sure you can use GarageBand first, which is a fantastic software for recording. It's amazing. There are free versions of other software for PC as well. You're just going to have to look because I don't have PC anymore, so I don't know, but there's tons of those. You could search online like free DAW, which is Digital Audio Workstation. Search for free DAW PC, and make sure you're not getting on some wacky website that's going to give you a virus or something. I don't have to worry about that with Macs. So, but that's what to do. All right. Any software you would recommend for someone who's brand new with all this recording stuff? Yeah. And as far as tips on home recording, you just have to get involved, right? So if you haven't gotten involved with this before, Lord Excess, then you just have to get your feet wet. And then what you're going to do is you're going to see, oh, I have to do this, I have to learn this. It will all reveal itself to you as you delve into it. That being said, it's a very humbling experience to record yourself for the first time. So use a metronome, that's a tip. Make sure you understand about mic levels and signal path. It sounds complicated, it's not. It's real basic. Understand those basic things. And if you have a looper pedal, get a looper pedal first, because that's going to really help you to understand like keeping in time and playing to bars and all the rest, like Robbie and I talk about in the video that went up recently. So that's what I would do there, Lord. Thank you, bud. Very cool. All right, so going back to this E flat bit here, we could, you know, hold that chord. This is a G, so we're going to slide that up to an E flat. Okay? Can we get a zoom in up on this, Chris? So here's our G, right? G, 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 G. I'm going to slide it up to an E flat. So technically that's where my G chord would be. So I'd have to put the capo right here. How do I know that? Because there's a space. There's a 1 fret space in between this finger and this finger. 1 fret. You can see it right there. If I was here, you got the chord, you got the space, and then you have the capo or the nut. So I'm taking that, I'm sliding that up to right here, and it's the same thing. So there's my chord, you know? Okay, so then my chords would follow the feel of G. Okay, now I could also go to the key of C. I was doing a vibe of C, and then here is an E flat on the 5th string. Remember I said you could do this on the 6th or 5th string to get it into that C or G feel. In this case here it would be a C feel. So here's my C chord. If we were holding the C chord down here, there's no space between the first finger and the nut. So that would mean if I slid this C note up, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, also known as E flat, then that's where our chord would go. And since I said there was no space between the chord itself and the nut, then our capo would go right there and we would play it as if it's in the key of C. Okay? But watch that video that I put up recently on why you making the guitar so hard, because there's a PDF for you that you can download that will make it so much easier for you to understand this, okay? All right, coolio. Audacity, yeah, Audacity's free, thank you, Peter, and that's a good one. I've heard good things about it. Yep. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Lonnie. Yeah, that was a good video with Robbie. He's a great guy. In fact, we just did a course. He did a course here in our studios that we're going to be announcing soon. So just hang in there, but we'll be announcing that soon. We're still putting all that together. There's lots of work behind the scenes in order to get that stuff ready. But just understand, he's got a whole course on that. It's going to be bonkers. So just get ready. Hey man, love your work. What is the most important point in becoming a pro? If you could say in a sentence, I would say an unrelenting curiosity for your instrument. You know, if you're curious about somebody, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you're going to find everything out you can about them because you're obsessed, right? Become obsessed about music. Become fanatical about your instrument and want to learn everything about it. That's the number one thing I would say, is to be obsessed or be fanatical, have an unrelenting curiosity, because that indeed will get you where you need to go. And if you're like, yeah, Eric, I have that, but I'm not there, it's not bringing me there, that means you don't have it. That means you've got that, you know, it's like when people go, I want to lose weight, but I don't want to not eat that donut. Well, then you don't want to lose weight enough. It's like, of course, everybody has the desire to be a great musician, to be a billionaire and everything else, but what does that matter? Since everybody wants that, not everybody's willing to do the work, and it really only counts for the people that are willing to do the work. And I know that pisses some people off. I'm sorry. We're getting soft out there. Not you guys, but that one guy who's listening. You. All right, so you know who I'm talking about. A scalpel pick is scalpel picking a technique you use for fast soloing. I have no idea what that is. And my guess would be I have to see what it is, but my guess would be is that it would be using the very tip of the pick, which technically is helpful, because if you're getting really sloppy with your pick and it takes half of the pick to get beyond playing a note, you know, if you're hitting it like with the pick way into the guitar and it takes a long time to play that note, well then what happens if you're trying to pick really fast, right? So I guess technically I'm probably doing whatever it is you're saying. I'd have to look it up, but what I find a lot of times when we're talking about really elementary things like picking, that people invent words or phrases, what have you, so it seems like they have a special technique or something like that. But I'd have to look. I don't want to beat it up if I don't know. But there's so much that can be done just from practicing something over and over again. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Yngwie Malmsteen, all these guys, I don't think, used the scalpel picking technique, because I've never ever heard that ever in my life. So chances are, not beating it up, I'm just saying, you know, you get good by practicing something over and over and over again. Sometimes there's a little trick, you know, to learn, especially like when it comes to music theory and that sort of thing. Is there a correct and incorrect way to hold a pick? No, there's not really an incorrect way to hold it. I saw a guy with no arms playing with his big toe and his middle toe. He's playing, you know, like that, like this. But it was his foot. So normally I would say, no, play with your thumb and your first finger, but that might be rude to say to a guy with no arms. So he's doing what it takes. And I found people, you know, Eddie Van Halen would play like this. If I saw a student doing that, because I've seen Eddie do it, I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd say, hey man, I think this is going to be easier for you, but Eddie Van Halen plays like this. So who am I to say that this is wrong? And a lot of people, they let their ego get involved when it comes to music, and then they start saying things like, well, that's wrong, or you're holding your hand wrong, or whatever. There's no way to do music wrong. There are ways that have been shown to be very common and easy ways to do it. Like, for instance, walking. There's nothing to say that you couldn't walk down Broadway in New York City backwards. You could do that all day long. It's just most people don't do that because it's just not very efficient. But if you did it, it'd still be walking and you'd still get you there. It's just not the most efficient for me. But maybe somebody has some sort of issue that walking backwards would help them. So try to think that way when you're talking about music. When you're thinking about music, is that there's a million ways that you can do something, unless you can physically see that you're copying out and you're trying to do something lazily or something. Most of the time, you're just coming up with your own way to do it. Okay. Is there any specifics I should practice if I want to play reggae music? Is it still tuned to E, A, D, G, B, E? As far as I know, everything is standard tuning when it comes to, yeah, everything's standard when we're talking about reggae. For the most part, like, there's just not really a reason to play in some alternate tuning. So yeah, it's just standard. And so one thing that you want to think about when you're playing reggae is they really emphasize the upbeat. So this is the downbeat. Down, up, 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 down, up, down, up. So the thumb is quiet and the is very loud. Conversely, I could go. And that's reggae. So you're hitting on all the upbeats. I cover that in my strumming video. They're all ands. That's one of the exercises that I have for you inside that strumming video, the one that's in the beginner course that I'm giving you a link for free access today. Links in the description of this video. All right. Sweet. How to ease the tension in my fretting arm and fender. So one way that you can do this is by focusing on it and going, hey, yo, and ease up a little bit. Don't tense up so much. To be cognizant of it, because when you're cognizant of something, especially if you're not doing it right, whether it's your breathing or it's the way you're holding your arm or the way you're sitting. Like if I reminded myself that I should be sitting up more, and then all of a sudden, just because I recognized it, I said, oh yeah, I should be doing that. A lot of times we do the thing that is not right because we're not thinking, right? But then if we think about it, we'll go, that's not what I should be doing. So chances are you've got tension in your fretting arm, because you're pressing too hard on the strings. So now your action of your guitar may be too high. That's something that I would allow someone at a music store or another guitar player who's been playing for a long time, play your guitar and make sure that the action's not set too high where you're having to work too hard, okay? So that's number one. And number two is to actually fret lighter. So if I play the chord pressing super hard, not only is my chord going to go out of tune a little bit, but I'm pressing about 5 times harder than I need to. So I'm going to play the same chord but lightly. Now I'm strumming harder, and here's me putting about 5 times as much pressure on it. So it doesn't really sound much different, except the second one where I'm pressing harder is going out of tune because I'm pressing the strings down too hard. So go light, be cognizant of it, and say, now how can I play lighter? Can I play it lighter? Can I play it lighter? And then you will find a nice, happy place where you're pressing down the strings just hard enough to where they sound, but to not hard enough to where you're getting tension in your hand. Okay? What are some tips when switching from acoustic to electric? There's no tricks. It's the same thing. I described this yesterday inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System. We had 3 live broadcasts yesterday, and we had like 1,300 new people in the program, so ish, something like that, 1,200, something like that. So, yeah, you know, they said, I'm scared to go to the electric, but you want to think about this. Switching from one car to another. So if you've ever sold a car and then got a new car, or a used car or whatever, but a different car, it's similar. It's like it's got a steering wheel, it's got wheels, there's the whole key thing on some cars, there's a door. It's the basic idea. A guitar, an electric guitar, acoustic guitar, it's all the same. It feels a little different, just like your new car will feel different. But there's no tips. It's just you do it. I could invent some tips if that would make you feel better, but I promise you, just grab it and get used to it. That's what it's all about. Can you discuss the advantages and disadvantages of having low action and higher action? Is one easier to bend than the other? Yeah, lower action is going to be typically easier to bend, but so will thinner strings. So will the scale of your guitar. So Fenders typically are harder to bend than Gibsons because the scale length is longer. So think about this for a minute. The smaller a body is, the higher pitched it is. Say it again. The smaller the body, the higher pitched it is. The bigger the body, the lower pitched it is. Just think about what kind of sound you would expect to come from a whale. Right? It's like this, it's huge. As opposed to a hummingbird that you might not even be audibly able to perceive. So the bigger body, the deeper the sound. So if your string length is longer, right, it's going to be lower in pitch. That means if we wanted to bring this E string up to pitch on this guitar or a Les Paul, because this is longer, we have to tighten the string more. It's only a little bit more, but it's more. As opposed to if the string length was this big, right, then we'd have to tune it way down because the string length is shorter. Some of you don't believe me still. Think about this. Here's an E. Here's an E. But that's an up an octave. So if I wanted this E to sound like, then I'd have to go down to the octave, and I'd have to tune it down because the actual body is shorter, right? And so because of that, I had to turn it down. So tune it down. So the Fender guitar has a longer string length, a longer scale. And so because of that, You have to tighten the strings more, which means there's more tension on it, which means when you bend them, they're a little bit harder to bend. As opposed to Fenders, which have a shorter scale length, you don't have to tighten the strings as much. And so because of that, they're easier to bend. Now, with that being said, the lower the action, the more your strings are going to buzz. The higher the action, the less your strings are going to buzz. The lower your action, the easier it is to press, because you only have to press a small distance from pressing the string down to the actual fretboard, right? If you have low action, you don't have to press very hard. And if it's high action, you have to press further. So there's more motion, more wasted motion. Make sense? Depending on the style that you play, so people say, what's the best action? There is no best. There's only what's best for a particular player, a specific genre. So bluegrass, they really hit their guitars really hard, right? So because of that, they have to typically have the string length higher, as opposed to a shredder who's playing very fast single notes. They can lower that action. Cool? Cool.
Black Friday.
Ah, yes, thank you so much. Friends, do not forget, this deal ends today. We have a Black Friday deal still going on right there. Do you remember the details of it? Okay. I don't remember the details of it either. It's bonkers, I can tell you that. So check that out. It's bonkers, what the deal is. That we just had a bunch of people jump into the program, and we've extended this. It is going away at midnight tonight. So if you want it, take advantage of it. If you've been thinking about getting in UGS, try it out. Or if you want, try out the free course, or half the free course, YourGuitarSage.com/30, or get in here. And if you're like, Eric, there's no way. You gave me too many lessons, and I learned way too quickly. You gave me like over 1,000 videos, and I'm learning guitar so much, and I'm mad about it. Then we will give you a 100% refund within 30 days. So you have 30 days to test drive it.
50% off.
50% off. Thank you so much, Mike. 50% off of, is it everything? You guys are giving my stuff away.
They'll have to check.
What the hell? It's 50% off, I think, of everything. Go to that link and you'll see. I think we have the link in the description of the video too, okay? Cool. My middle finger, hold on here. What pickup configuration goes with what genres? It's all over the board, Dennis. There's no specific configuration per genre. For the most part, you know, rock and heavy metal and those more aggressive types typically use a humbucker in the bridge position, whereas maybe like jazz is going to use a little bit more of it's a darker tone. So, but you could do that with the tone knob as well. So it's all over the board. Can you explain the advantages and disadvantages of pick thicknesses? James, yeah, I have a whole video on this inside of the free course, right, below. Check that out. But essentially, without getting into all the detail here, a thicker pick is really advantageous when you're wanting to do fast picking up on top, right? And as opposed to strumming, where you're going to have like a thinner pick, where it's kind of, think about it like if you had long hair, you would use a brush with thinner bristles because you've got so much hair to go through. If you had just a little bit of hair up top, you could use a comb, right? So same thing with a pick. It's like the more strings that you're hitting, typically, and the harder you're hitting it, the thinner the pick you want. And if you're just picking individual notes, especially soloing and that sort of thing, then a thicker pick is gonna help that, right? Yeah. My middle finger fretting hand went numb and painful a couple weeks ago. The pain went away, but the finger's still numb. Is it too much practice? Nope. It's not too much practice. It's something else. I've never in my life heard of that, and there's a million people that would have run into that too, that it would be a thing. We would know about it. No, it's not too much practice. You know, it could have to do with the fact that you're practicing, but that's not the variable, right? Just like someone can have a heart issue and then go on the roller coaster and then get a heart attack and then be like, oh, I'm going to sue you. This roller coaster gives people heart attacks. No, you're just eating the damn wrong food, and then you get on a roller coaster and you scared yourself out of your pants, and then you got a heart attack. So it's probably not practice, no. In fact, I'd be about 99% sure it's not practice. What would be my next move in order to learn chord progressions, either from the root note, the pentatonic scale, or whatever else you recommend? LA, I would say learn chord progressions just like you would in a song. Don't worry about, I'm not sure what you mean by the root note, pentatonic. I mean, I know what those are, but you know, if it says play an A minor chord and a C and a G, then just play those. You're gonna have to get more detailed on that question to let me know what you mean, because chord progression is a chord progression. You play them in the order that they go in, that they progress, right? So if you can clear that up a little bit, let me know. Thank you. Whispers 50% off. Yes. Yes, he did. Which pick am I using right now? It's just a random thicker pick that I picked up. This is a 1.2 millimeters. It's an Ibanez pick, but not because anything other. It's got some really cool Japanese writing on the back, and I like that. It probably says Dumb American or something like that. I have no idea. But I think it's a really cool pick, and just because it's thicker. That's really it, though. Oh, and I got a million picks. They're just laying all around the studio. So, but if I'm playing the electric, I pick up a thicker pick. If I'm playing the acoustic, I'll use a thinner pick. All right, sweet. Okay, let me jump up here a little bit because I ran out of questions there, and I know other folks have questions that I jumped right over. Someone's saying cakewalk. Yeah. For sure, that's a great one for learning DAW, learning how to record for yourself. And I think that is free now. I think Cakewalk is free. Will I have any upcoming videos on tone tweaking? Ted, probably not inside of YouTube, but we have a whole series inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System. In fact, we have something, which that's the one that we have for 50% off today. Link's in the description of the video. We have a whole series called The Ultimate Pursuit of Tone. And it's with Greg Ellis, who's my guitar tech. And basically, what we do is we go over all the components, from the pick to the string to what the guitar is made of, to the pickups, to the pots, to the cable, to the amp, or to the pedals, to the amp, to the speakers, to so many variables. I mean, the whole enchilada, because you got to consider all of that. All of that is a part of your sound. And so, Ted, why I wouldn't have videos on that is because everybody has different equipment, and because it just would take, it's a very comprehensive, or I shouldn't say comprehensive, it's a very, there's a lot, you would need a lot of videos to talk about this, which is why we created a course for it instead of just like doing a quick video. It really wouldn't do anybody any justice by just doing that, because everybody has a different set of circumstances, different guitars, and et cetera, et cetera. So, so that has to be taught more in a course, okay? Hey, what should we learn to become a composer? You should learn to compose. You should study other composers. You should study songwriting. You should study music theory. You should be listening a lot. You should be, if something excites you when you're listening to it, you should say, well, why does that excite me? And what are they doing there? What about that gives it that sound? That's what you should be doing. Studying lots of compositions. Can classical music be played on an electric guitar? I think. Yeah, it can. Yeah, you can do that on electric or any instrument, really, for that matter. Do you know the song Vancouver by Jeff Buckley? I don't, no. But I love Jeff Buckley, and I probably have heard it, you know, because like he didn't have a lot of albums before he died, right? And so I think I've heard them all. My wife's a big Jeff Buckley fan. I like Jeff Buckley. He's just not my favorite, but he's awesome. But he's just not my favorite, so I didn't just like deep dive into his stuff. But he was great, amazing singer. Okay. And someone's saying, help me understand Western swing chord progression. So Herb, Western swing is like I mentioned to you with the alternating bass lines, but Western swing chord progressions, their chord progressions aren't really any different than typical pop chord progressions. It's just the way that they're playing it and the beat and the strum and that sort of thing. That's what you're hearing, which I demonstrated earlier. Will a compressor help reduce noise from adjacent strings while bending notes? No, only technique will. A compressor basically takes your sound, and if your sound is low, right, it will typically bring it up, and if it's too high, it will bring it down. So it basically creates like a magic little spot there for your sound to be in regards to volume. So what that means is if you hit really loud, it's not going to jump through the speakers like that. If I put a compressor on it and I did that, it would sound, you'd hear it sound the same, but it wouldn't be as loud, it wouldn't jump out. Kind of like the difference between right now, if a bomb blew up inside this building right now, it would hurt our ears, but it wouldn't hurt your ears because there's all sorts of compressors built into everything that we're doing, from the computer to every single piece of equipment, to YouTube and everything else, your speakers at home, everything else. So by the time it got to you, it would be compressed so much that it wouldn't bother you. They do this all the time on the radio, so that everything's a certain volume, so it's expected, so you're not blasting one song's not blasting out another song. So a lot of stuff is compressed. And it will typically take the stuff that's lower and bring it up, and the stuff that's higher and bring it down into a specific range that makes it tolerable. And it can be used as an effect too, in that way. It's good for like funk guitar and that sort of sound. Okay, spinning all the way to the bottom here again. I like this. This is kind of old school. We're getting to questions again. Any plans to ship t-shirts and other stuff to other countries? Well, we are in negotiations right now with another company and I'm not sure where we're at on that yet, because you always have so many things in the works, but I would love for that to be the case. I'd love to get stuff out to you in other countries, indeed. I like to play both acoustic and electric. Do you have any tips on practicing the two to complement dual instruments? I have been playing both for a few years now. Yeah, sure. So tips on practicing the two to complement dual instruments. So similarly to what Robbie and I talked about in this video recently, is don't play the same part on the same instrument if you're wanting to complement. Otherwise, you're not complementing, you're copying. So if you've ever heard two people talking and somebody makes a point and then the other person just mimics everything that they say, then that can get really annoying, and it's awkward, it's socially awkward and everything else. And when you're talking about music, it's not too different. If somebody's playing something and the other guy's playing all over it, the same thing, it's like, good, now we got two guys doing the same thing, yay. As opposed to playing something that complements. So if somebody says, I love Jimi Hendrix, and somebody says, oh man, Jimi Hendrix was amazing. Yeah, his choice of chords that he would play was bizarre yet so beautiful, right? So that's complementing each other, as opposed to if he said, Jimi Hendrix is amazing, and you're like, oh, Jimi Hendrix was amazing. That'd be weird, right? So you want to complement and you want to add something to it. So that's how I want you to think. And sometimes that means different orchestration, so different parts of the neck. So if you're playing a G chord here, then you might want to play another G chord up there, or up here, or up here. So many different ways to play that G chord, and so being in a different frequency is helpful. Also doing things like playing different parts. So if one part is doing this, in fact, let's do this here real quick. We'll go, so if I do something like, So if I do that, and now I come along with, and I'm the second guitar, and I go, well, that's not really doing much. But if I change the chord, it's a little better because we're hearing some different voices. But what if I did something like this? What happens if I went? You know? Or just something different, right? That would be a great way to make it sound bigger and have more interesting stuff going on. Coolio. Right, my audience is my wife and dog, best audience ever. I think I should buy an Epiphone Les Paul and a Squire Telecaster. Does paying $5,000 for a new guitar really make a difference for a hack like me? Russell, nope, except it probably will make your wife mad. So I don't know if I'd do that. What I would do is I would watch the first couple of videos that are in the beginner course that I'm giving you guys today. Links in the description of the video. Because I tell you how to find a good guitar without necessarily breaking the bank. Otherwise, there are $250,000 guitars out there, $300,000 guitars out there that you could buy too. You might as well just go straight for those, because the amount of money that you pay doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be that much of a better guitar. There's different reasons why something might be more expensive. Like, for instance, the fact that it's vintage and there's not a lot of them anymore. And so that raises the price for something. But even on a newer instrument, a lot of times these instruments that are a lot more don't necessarily equate to being something that's that much better. Okay, I'm having a custom guitar built right now, and it'll probably be somewhere over there. I don't know how much it's going to be. It's not going to be $5,000, but it's probably going to be $2,000, $3,000, something like that. And there's not going to be a guitar that's made better than this with more attention and all the other things that we're doing. You watch, you're going to see. This is why it's taken me quite a while to do it, because we're doing lots of research and development on this. We already have one prototype, and I was not 100% happy with it. So I'm going with another builder, and I promise you this guitar is going to be amazing. But you know, if you're Fender and you're Gibson, you can throw prices like that on something, and someone's going to buy it for sure. Nothing against those companies. I got tons of Fenders and tons of Gibsons. I love them, but no, don't fall into that trap. Okay. And definitely get your guitar set up, like Lonnie is saying here. Very important to get your guitar set up, because how a guitar is set up is everything. You know. What looper do I use? I've got lots and lots of loopers. The one that I'm using right now is inside of my Kemper profiling amp, but I use a Ditto. I've used the 360 Nano is one that I'm using right now that I like a lot. In fact, I like it a little bit better than my Ditto because I can store some loops in there. So I'm probably going to be giving away my Ditto, although it's bigger. The Ditto is nice and small, so I like that. But yeah, there's all sorts of great loopers out there. So you just got to find out what it is that you want, because they all work relatively the same. Okay, so Isaiah is saying, how do I create a verse, chorus, bridge? I'm having a hard time making big changes in songs. So Isaiah, so this is my kind of little quick rule, if you will. It's like, if you have a song that's like, let's say it's in the key of G, and it's, so it has G and C and D and that sort of thing, and the verse is like lots of G and C and maybe a D. Well, I just played a bunch of G, C, D. Well, I've got other chords I could play, so maybe if I wanted to go, what I do is I like to, as I go to a new section of a song, I like to put a chord that maybe I hadn't heard before. That's a great way to make big changes in a song. Okay, great. Yeah, look, here's somebody who's saying they have a $150 Cozart that plays as well as $1,000 Strat. Will I be adding more finger-picking lessons? Yes, indeed I will. Are you talking about to the Unstoppable Guitar System? Because if that's the question, well, to either YouTube and UGS, I'll be adding to both. And in fact, I'm talking right now with Colin Hill, who you guys have seen Colin Hill before on this live show, an amazing finger picker, and I want him to create kind of a more advanced finger picking course inside of UGS. He's an amazing player and a great instructor, and so we are talking right now about doing that. He's a great guy, great player. I need a good looper pedal. I currently cannot afford one. Anyone willing to trade a Schecter Hellraiser that is a little beat up for your decent looper pedal? There you go. Someone wants a guitar and has a second looper. There you go. Is your custom electric guitar, and will it be available to buy at some point? Is your custom guitar electric? Yes, it is electric, and yes, it will be available for purchase. Yeah, and it will be the same thing that I have. We're going to have 3 different versions of it. The one that I have, which is going to be the higher end version, and then there'll be a mid version, which is just basically doing away with a couple things that makes it expensive and beautiful and what have you. It'll still be beautiful, and but the things that make it a little bit more expensive that don't necessarily have to be there won't be there. And then we're going to have an entry level, but they're all going to be bonkers to play, and they're all going to have the same basic bits going on there, with the exception of a couple little things taken out to make it more affordable, and that's literally just to make them more affordable. That's the only reason. I don't want to dumb these guitars down. There's plenty of dumb guitars out there. That's not what this is. So if you want a cheap-ass guitar, I'm not the guy. If you want an amazing guitar, I'll be the guy for you, because it really will be amazing. I'm so excited about it. The guys I'm talking with right now are very excited about it too. All right, good. We're going to be going about another 13 minutes, my friends. All right. I flipped from acoustic to electric. Is that good or bad? Nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time. Nothing at all wrong with that. You know, a guitar player who's a virtuoso at a particular something, like for instance Stevie Ray Vaughan, chances are is not going to be switching back and forth between a Les Paul and an acoustic guitar and his Strat. The reason that you only see him with a Strat, or 99% of the time, is because he's gotten so good at executing what he wants to do on the Strat. It's his weapon of choice. So he's gotten so refined at it that pulling in another variable is going to throw him off. For players who like to be more diverse, like I like to play a bunch of different instruments, so I know it probably affects me a little bit, but I'm not playing to the level that Stevie Ray Vaughan is. I'm also not expected to play to the level of Stevie Ray Vaughan, so I don't worry about that. But Stevie, he had to be concerned with that, right? He also probably just liked to play that guitar, you know. Any tips on remembering chords in songs? Yeah, Mike. What you want to do is you want to, number one, you can do like, if it's, you know, D-A, D-A-D, D-A-G, right? You could be like dad, dag. You could think of that in your mind, D-A-D, D-A-G. So you could think about it that way. Or another way you could do it is to actually listen to the chords. When you study the Nashville number system, which is how the chords are based according to their bass note as it relates to the major scale or the diatonic harmony, once you do that, you're going to get a feel for them, because each chord now is going to have a role that it plays. Just like in the military, you'll have sergeants and colonels and privates and everything else. What I mean by that is this. A C chord in the key of C is number 1. It's the number 1 chord. It's the chord that everything wants to come back to. It always wants to come back to that C. That's the 1. in the key of C. But if we were talking about the key of G, now G is the 1, and the C now becomes a 4. So it has a different role in a different key. So a C chord doesn't sound, I mean, it sounds the same, but in relation to the other chords, it doesn't sound the same. Make sense? It's like military, strip them of their titles, they're just people, right? They probably have different habits too. But if you're talking about just people, they're just people, right? Take a police officer, take his badge away, he's just a person just like you and me, but with the badge, they have power to do things, right? Same thing with chords. It's like when they play a certain role, they become a certain something, and they're able to do certain things. And so if you start listening to them as the 1 and the 4 and the 5, you'll get to know what their roles are. It's not like we can say, oh, this chord has this sort of power and it does this, that, the other thing. We kind of could, but it's more of like a sound thing. Like the 4 chord wants to go to the 5 chord, and the 5 chord wants to come back to the 1 chord. So there is like these kind of almost like arrows that say, you're probably going to go here, you're probably going to go there, because that's the way they pull. Would deconstructing songs written by Kiss be a good way to learn basic songwriting in the rock genre? Yes, that'd be a fantastic way. Yeah. Kiss has done pretty good over the years. So I think that'd be a fantastic way to learn how to write famous rock songs. All right, about another 8 minutes or so, my friends, and then we're going to call it. Can you talk about the proper posture when playing guitar? Ooh, posture. See, I lift my back up. Remember I mentioned earlier that when you recognize something, when you just think about it, you can correct it very easily. So proper posture, if you can keep a slight arc in your back by taking your pelvis and just tilting it forward a little bit, kind of like sticking out your belly button a little bit, that will make it to where you don't have back pain for sure. And there's a couple different ways that you can hold the guitar. This is like traditional folk style, and then this would be more like classical style, right? I cover this in detail in the course that I'm giving you guys today. There's one of the beginner videos is on posture, so check that out. Don't forget. How can you tell when the frets are too worn? Peter's saying, well, you can look at them. Taking them to a luthier will help as well, because they can go, oh man, that is wore out, Indeed, yeah, just look at them. Also, you'll see little indentations, and if they're too far down, then that's a reason. Also, if you start getting dead frets, and it's not because of the pitch of the neck, this is why I say check out a luthier, because they're going to know all that stuff. What would cause an E string on a Strat to go sharp only when fretted, sticking to the nut? Could be lots of reasons. You could be pressing too hard, Ryan. Your strings could be too high so that when you press them down, now it's putting the guitar out of intonation. It's probably that you're pressing too hard. There's a hierarchy of reasons of why that could be in the order. Probably pressing too hard. If it's not that, your strings may be too high. If it's not that, you could have issues with your frets, but that's probably not the deal. Any additional help for bar chords? I'm failing miserably. Jason. Now this is a longer subject. We don't have a lot of time. So what I want you to do is, after this video, which will be like in 6 minutes, what I want you to do is on YouTube search YourGuitarSage F chord. And there should be 2 videos that come up. Number 1, the effing F chord, and then another one that teaches you how to take that F chord and break it down to 2 and 3 note segments. The reason why you want to do that is the same reason why you want to walk and crawl before you get on a tricycle, before you get on a bicycle, before you get on a BMX, and before you join the X Games and do those flips where they're flipping in the air, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. You don't want to go straight from, you don't want to skip the crawling part and go straight to the X Games. Not that you could, but you don't want to do that. Same thing with playing a 6-string bar chord. If you understand how to play the notes that make up the chord in between, then you get the F chord eventually, but you'll see exactly where it is that you're having an issue. What exercises or ideas on guitar do you use to work on ear training? So Tom, in the beginning, I do something called hum and hunt, and I believe this is in the course I'm giving you guys today. Now I just learn songs because I've gotten acquainted to this, but like I might just hum a note, and then I find it on the guitar. It's called hum and hunt. You want to move chromatically, so just take one string and move one fret at a time. Where people mess up is they do this. They go, that would be like losing a ring on the beach and starting way over there and then running over here and looking there and then running way back there and looking there and running over here and looking there, as opposed to starting right here. I just dropped it. I just dropped it. So I'll do like a little circle, you know, or I'll scan type of thing. So you want to go chromatically, right? One note at a time, half steps on one string till you find that note. Cool? All right. What book would you recommend for help to get more independent? Well, I wrote one specifically for just doing that. But better yet, take the course from the book. Okay, I have a book, I have an ebook that you can get for free today at YourGuitarSage.com. You'll see it once you get there, so download that for free. But more importantly, definitely get in the free program, because that is the video representation of everything in that book, or the majority of all that stuff. There it is. And that will absolutely change the way that you think about guitar. I can promise you that. Should I learn rhythm or lead guitar? I would learn rhythm first, because there's a lot to do with chords. Typically, there's a million songs you can play rhythm-wise, but lead guitar is also more challenging at first, so it's good to get your fingers going. There's no rule, there's no hard, fast rule. You know that from me, right? But I would encourage you to start with rhythm first. I think that's a better way to do it. What's the difference between the 1-3-5 technique and the 1-4-5 bolt techniques besides the numbers? The 1-3-5 for just chord construction? Yeah. So when we're talking about a 1-3-5, we mean the 1, the 3, and the 5 from the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or 1, 3, 5 makes a chord, a major chord. But when we're talking about the 1-4-5, when you're hearing that, usually what we're talking about is we're talking about a 1-4-5 progression, a chord progression. So like a 1 chord, a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like, that's 1, 4, 5. When you hear 1-3-5, 99% of the time when you're talking about music, you're talking about building a major chord. When you're talking about like a 1-4-5 or 1-4-5 minor 6, you're talking about the chords, a chord progression, based off of the notes in the scale. So here's a 1, here's a 4, here's a 5, here's a 6. And so here's 1, minor 6, 4, 5. Okay? All right. Oh, thank you so much for that, my friend. Saying 213 people in here, and not 213 people have liked the video. You're right, my friend. Go ahead and like this video right now and share it too, friends. I pour my heart out to you guys, so please do that. Share it, okay? I'm on the 75-inch screen and you scared my Yorkie. I'm so sorry. I'm a big animal fan. Sorry, Yorkie. Cats are great. They're getting fat. I have 3 black cats. Someone's saying the black one's awesome. I have 3 black cats. Choopy is the fat one. Bedford is the senior. And Tux is the little rascal who just super lovable. And then I have a gray cat too. Baby Cakes is her name. Yes, I'm referring to the chart PDF. You have that. Good. Excellent. All right, my friends, we're going to get to like one more question, and then we're going to head on out, okay? A couple things. Don't forget the link that's in the description. We have a few links in the description of this video. 50% off, I think probably everything would be my guess. Yes, I think it's everything. That link is below. If you're serious, there it is, Black Friday 19. If you're serious about changing the way that you think about guitar and you're like, daggone it, in 2020, I'm doing it. I'm not going to put my dreams away anymore. I'm going after my dreams. I'm not going to keep tucking them away. I'm going to be happy and I'm going to get to my dreams. And if it has to do with guitar, that's what to do right there. That's going to save you a lot of money right there. Number one, there's that. Number two, if you're like, Eric, I'm never going to buy a guitar lesson a day ever in my life, and I'm totally fine with just having those basics, but I want to have a real strong foundation, then take advantage of the free course, YourGuitarSage.com/30. It's there for you for free. There's absolutely no tricks in it. With it, we've literally had 500,000 people take advantage of this, and everybody's bonkers for it. So it's there for you for free. You might as well take advantage of it, okay? Until we decide that we're not going to do that anymore. Take advantage of it. Oh, thank you, Dwight. Wish I could like it 100 times. Dwight won a Les Paul just a few weeks ago. Congratulations, Dwight. All right, my friends, we're out of here. So those are the two things I want you to think about. Don't forget the video that we just uploaded with Robbie Calvo. A great video that'll kind of talk about this riffing over one chord chop builder. And that's it. Thanks so much for hanging in here. Thank you so much for your questions, and I'll see you guys soon.